Gordon Weir. Hi Chris, it seems that Scientology has more than its share of divorces. Being separated by work schedules, one spouse being sent to another location, spouse sent to the RPF, spouses at different levels, a spouse blowing. It seems that the church at times encourages divorce. What is your take? It also seems some marriages survive despite Scientology's best efforts. Well, you nailed it, Gordon. Yeah, there are a lot of divorces in Scientology, especially in the Sea organization, which is where you're going to find most of the examples of what you were describing there happen. I've met Sea Org members who were separated from their spouses for years because they were off, like I knew a woman who came from Australia to Los Angeles to do a training and do some classes. She was going to, be gone for like a couple months. And literally 3 years later, she had not seen her kids. She had not seen her husband. She was Sea Org too. I mean, she had children back in Australia. This was back in the late 80s when kids were still around on Sea Org bases, and being raised by them. They weren't kicking the Sea Org members out yet. So, and I felt really bad for this lady. I mean, and sometimes she would just break down into tears right in the middle of the classroom, because she'd be getting upset about, not getting through these classes and internship that she was doing. And she was just languishing there in LA. I mean, it was awful. She was stuck there. And I felt really bad for her. This was back before I joined the Sea Org, and I saw that happening, and I thought, that's screwed up. At the same time, I also thought, well, she's Sea Org, she's there on her own willingness, you know what I mean? I wouldn't put up with that, but I guess some people are that dedicated. And of course, 7 years later, I joined the Sea Org, and I'm just as foolishly doing the exact same things. Anyway, yeah. So if it gets to the point where the decision point on whether a divorce should happen or not is whether it's somehow, if the marriage is somehow interfering with church operations, or it's become such a problem or an issue for the person that that is somehow interfering with their job. Okay, that's when and if it in any way interferes with your duties or ability to get products or produce whatever you're supposed to be producing, then the Sea Org is going to encourage a divorce, right? They're going to be like, well, okay, screw that, right? Get ixnay on the divorce, right, on the marriage, and it'll be encouraged, right? And like, let's say, for example, this woman who was there for training all that time, well, she was eventually supposed to go back, yet she was there for so long that somebody, at the Los Angeles side might have went, we actually want to post her out here. So let's get her to divorce her husband, and I don't know, the kids will sort themselves out, and let's get that happening, right? And then she might be, if somebody made that decision, and then that decision was approved by a more senior personnel person, overseeing the distribution of personnel. I guess you'd say the human resources people. We don't call it, they didn't call it that in Scientology, but basically HR, it gives their blessing. Then this woman who was there for training for 3 years might find herself in a room being sat down and told, hey, we're going to actually repost you here, and you need to divorce your husband. And, blow up and handle and deal with all of her, upset over that, and get her to agree to do that, right? I've seen that happen. I didn't see that happen with her, but I've seen that happen with other people, right? For the reasons you laid out in your question, right? Different people at different levels of Scientology, hierarchy of management, or any situation that might present itself where Sea Org operations are being harmed or fettered or in some fashion or another are being interfered with by the marriage. The marriage is the thing that's going to go. Now, there are the exceptional people in Scientology and the Sea Org who are truly in love with their spouse more than they're in love with the Sea Org. And they're not going to bow down or kowtow to any kind of suggestion or hint that they get divorced. They're going to be like, yeah, I don't think so. And ultimately, it really is up to them. Now, I will say that's at the lower levels of the Sea Org. At the upper levels, I couldn't speak to that. Because if Miscavige came along or some other very senior person came along and said, David Miscavige ordered that you get divorced, Okay, that's a little bit of a different situation from the scenario I just presented to you where, where this lower level thing is going on, okay? The amount of pressure that would be brought to bear on somebody if Miscavige ordered the divorce to happen would be quite intense. And the Headleys are an example of a couple who, Mark and Claire Headley, who overcame that and did not bow to that kind of pressure and ended up taking off as a result. So you have different results. Things turn out differently for various couples depending on the dynamics of their relationship and how much they love each other. So I went to the RPF when I was in the Sea Org, and I went to the RPF for out 2D. In other words, for sexual misconduct, right? And a lot of people who went to the RPF ended up divorcing their spouses simply because they knew that they were going to be on the RPF for years, because nobody's on the RPF for months. No one. It's years that you're going to be on that program. And a lot of spouses just go, yeah, I don't want to wait. My wife at the time did agree to wait, and she was one of the driving forces that actually propelled me through that program, because I loved her and I wanted to get back to be with her. So that was one of the reasons I made it through that program in the first place. Otherwise, I might have just, hit the road myself at that point. Anyway, so, different circumstances, but there's some details about it that I hope are informative to you.